I'm going to show you how to disassemble a lens assembly from a Canon SD780 camera. Well, these were a step up from the SD30s and 40s. They were still, the fragility was still pretty bad in them. A slight bump or drop on the front lens housing pretty much destroyed everything that was inside of it, or broke the pins, or jumped it on its tracking grooves. So in order to get this apart, first of all, we're going to have to take the aperture cable out of its socket here in the main cable. And so we're going to pop this little clamp up here and pull the aperture cable out. And then we're going to have to remove the distance beam, the distance light beam from its little socket. You could just slide this right out here, and this tab is held on the back here by a couple pins and a double-sided tape, so just kind of pop that off the pins and the tape, and we'll get this released there. Okay, and that's about it. All you have to do is just take it off that far. And now we have to take out 5 screws. There's one in the front and there's 4 in the back. So we're going to remove the front one first of all. Hold constant pressure on these screws because they're threaded in pretty tightly. And so you don't want to strip out the heads, because otherwise then you won't be able to get them out. Now if you notice that these screws going into the plastic are a little bit longer than the other screws in your camera that go into hold the backboard in place. And we're going to set these on our screw guide here. And all five of these screws are the same, so you don't have to worry about getting the front mixed up with the back. So like I said, you want to make sure you hold constant pressure on these and pull it out. And I use a magnetic screwdriver, and it helps keep holding on to these little screws, and otherwise it's pretty hard to keep track of them. Okay, now we're going to lift off the back plate, and that just comes straight up here. And so, but we have to make sure we don't damage any of the cables while we're doing this. So this motor housing has to come up here, and it's kind of tricky getting this off, but once you get the hang of it, it's not too bad. And here we're hung up here a little bit on this tab, so we're just going to pry that off there, and that's about all we have to do. Okay, this camera was dropped in salt water, and you can see the salt water even got into the lens. If you can see that on the camera here, there's a couple spots here where the salt water damaged it, so that's the reason why we're taking it apart. But most of these problems with these SD780s was that when you dropped them, you got a lens there. You either jumped these tracking pins here on the aperture or one of the lens rings. And so we're going to take this whole assembly apart and check everything out and clean it. First of all, what we have to do is rotate the pinion gear to extend the lens group all the way down. So we're going to rotate the pinion gear in a counterclockwise direction, and that's going to rotate the ring gear, which is right here, in a clockwise direction, and that's going to extend this extend all these extender groups. So once we extended this out far enough so that we can see our aperture cable here slot here, we have to slide this to the inside from the outside. It's held in by a couple slip tabs here, and so we're going to pull it out of those slip tabs, and be very gently with this cable. It's pretty sensitive, it's pretty fragile, so once you pull that out, just slide your aperture cable out, and now we're going to rotate it back again, and collapse everything down, and that'll be to the point, and we're going to rotate this as far as we possibly can in the clockwise direction, the pinion gear. It'll rotate the ring gear in the counterclockwise direction. So we're going to rotate that as far as we can, and that'll get it to the point where it'll release everything, and all of its tracking pins will line up with their release grooves. And so we're going to push the whole assembly out to the front. Now I'm going to keep track of everything here in order of radial orientation. So this is the top of the lens assembly right here, and so this is the bottom where the cable comes through. And so I'm going to set this off to the side on my sheet here in the order I disassembled it. And if you look here now, we can gently pull out all the pins line up for disassembly here, so we can gently pull out the aperture cable here. And you don't want to pull on this cable too hard if it won't come. Just pop the pins out of here, and lay that off to the side here. Now what we have left is our primary extender ring, which has the ring gear on it, and our front lens carrier, and our indexing sleeve. So we're going to pop out our front lens carrier, just push that straight up and pull it out. And now you notice in this indexing ring there's a interrupter tab here. This goes through the light sensor, and that tells it when the lens is fully retracted. So what we're going to do here is rotate this back to a point here where we kind of stop, and then we're going to lift it up again. We're going to lift it up slightly. We're going to rotate it in the indexing sleeve as far as we can in its clockwise direction, and then lift up on it slightly, and then rotate it again. Now you notice the position of this. This is right next to the end, to the counterclockwise most end of the ring gear. And so when we put this back together again, we have to put it back in this orientation. So we're going to pull that apart and pull that up here like that. And we're going to set that off to the side here. So now we have our whole lens disassembled, and we're going to clean it and inspect all the parts, and then there'll be another video on how to put it back together. And that's it.